we're going to talk about inflammatory foods and elimination diets. So, I was going to read you guys something out of the book because I feel like it really makes sense. So, right, inflammation is really supposed to be there to like heal wounds. And usually it's a really good thing, right? Like all the red blood cells go there and heal and do its little thing so that like an injury can be healed or something. But like in the American diet, especially, there are some foods that are hard to digest for people and cause a systemic inflammation. So, you know, without like going into too much science, what I was going to read is, so the kind of inflammation is at the root of a huge number of lifestyle related diseases and conditions. So inflammation's when you are eating something that doesn't agree with you, let's say you're sensitive to, sometimes it shows up in like achy joints, or sometimes it shows up just like as bloated and yucky, or like your pooping is inconsistent, you're constipated, or you're at the other spectrum, or it's just not like what you would consider normal. Sometimes it's headaches, sometimes it's like eczema or skin rashes. And so sometimes we will get these things and feel like, what is wrong with me? Something's wrong. Something's wrong. And so it is something worth looking at if you're having little nagging issues like this. Bye, honey. Love you. My daughter's leaving. And so that's why I want to talk about it, because I went on an elimination diet last year because I felt like I had a lot of inflammation. And sometimes inflammation feels like, well, you know, sometimes you just feel fluffy. You know, like when you're on your period, like you're holding water, you kind of just feel fluffy, or like after a really hard workout, like your legs are sore and they actually feel bigger. And you're like, what's going on? I'm working out. I'm like getting bigger. What is this? Sometimes it will come out in like pounding swollen fingers or feet. I don't know if anybody knows what that means, but I get like what I call throbbing feet all the time. And that's kind of how I know, like, oh my God, inflammation. Sometimes when I put like my wedding ring on, it won't come on. And sometimes we are like, oh, we ate a Chinese food or something salty, right? But sometimes it's we ate something that our body doesn't know what to do with, right? And so that's like, let's go back to Fitme plate really quick. Like the pretense of a Fitme plate, everything is pretty much from the ground. And that is because it goes into our body and our body's like, hey, oh, this is from the ground. I totally know what to do with this. I'm just going to do fuel, put it where it's supposed to be, you know, and we eat it and we feel great, right? When we're eating a lot of processed foods, or like dairy's a number one inflammatory, gluten is a number one inflammatory. I'm going to put those two at the very top. Sugar, any kind of processed foods, alcohol, thank you, alcohol,
grains,
eggs sometimes are very inflammatory, like nightshades. Like we don't have to go into all the things. So if you are having any of those nagging things, elimination diet might be for you. Don't think about elimination diet as like a diet. I like to think about it more as a reset. It's not supposed to be something that lasts forever. It's not necessarily supposed to be, it's going to be strict, but not strict in calories. It has to be strict in gluten, you know, dairy, alcohol, sugar, like the main things it has to be strict in. You cannot have any of them, else you won't know if one of those things are bothering you, right? And so recommended is 30. When I did mine, 30 days, when I did mine, I did 60 days. I felt like I really needed that. And I found out some interesting things. I thought gluten-free was some BS, trendy, like fake thing, right? And after I did the elimination diet and I introduced gluten back, I realized that it was real. Like it's a true thing. So I'm a believer now. That's the other thing with the elimination diet. You take it all out for a certain amount of time, 30 days, let's say, and you each week you introduce something back in. And that's how you know if that's the thing that's bothering you. So you find something that's bothering you, right? Okay, gluten. I have a sensitivity to gluten. Does that necessarily mean that you can never eat gluten again, ever, ever, ever? Probably not, but probably only in moderation. And the minute you eat it, it's usually not the minute, but once it starts to digest, usually right away with gluten. I do. I get bloated, gassy, like all those things. Especially if I'm eating gluten a lot, like it has a buildup in the body. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to open it up to you ladies and talk about, do you have joint pain? Do you have headaches? Are you irregular in the bathroom? Do you have bloated gut all the time? Do you have inflammation, like throbbing legs or feet, or, any of these kind of ailments? Like there is so many ailments that can be related to food that it's worth seeing if that's it before we start like Googling and getting crazy and, we have cancer or something, right? My son's a perfect example. Every time he gets an ailment, he wants to go to the doctor. And I'm like, well, why don't we try something simpler first? Nope. He wants to go to the doctor because the doctor's going to tell him what to do and the doctor's going to fix it. Sometimes you do that and the doctor may give you something that's actually just masking the problem. So an elimination diet is just a really easy place to start to figure out if something you're eating on a regular basis is jacking you up. So I want to open it up to you ladies and let's talk about this.
I can share a little bit about this. I was like really excited for this call and because I was having like a lot of digestive problems after my second baby, probably even before that, but I don't know if it just got exacerbated after that. And then I finally went to a doctor that suggested like, hey, why don't you just try not to have dairy for a little while? And I just stopped. Mine was more digestive. I feel like I was tired anyway because of the baby. I don't know. Who knows all the other things, but and I completely eliminate it. And I know now that that was definitely a huge factor. And then I did try to introduce it and then I would immediately notice. Mm-hmm. So even now I can do like little bits, but if I overdo it, I know that it's like affecting me. And it's the same with eggs. So I can tell the same thing with eggs. So it's just interesting that you said eggs because I didn't really realize that was an inflammatory food. And I also kind of go off of the food map diet a little bit and try to follow that. But yeah, I can just relate to that.
No, I can relate with dairy because my husband has intolerance to dairy and he immediately gets like acid reflux, indigestion like that. It's like immediate. He's like, oh, why'd I eat that ice cream? Like, why'd I have a little cream in my coffee? But he never really realized that he's 53 years old until like just recently. And so it is kind of cool. It is kind of cool once you realize that you can do something about it.
And it's good that you brought that up, Rose, because the first two things, like Leah said, gluten and dairy, those are the first things that you can kind of take out, and then you can go deep dive even more into doing like the eggs and alcohol and the processed food. But a lot of times, the first initial two that they start with is gluten and dairy. So that's really awesome. They were able to find it for you that quickly.
Yeah, so this is Virginia. This is kind of going off of that. Is like how so I just did an elimination diet. I did it for 6 weeks. And I don't feel like I felt any different. And I eliminated like 40 different foods. I eliminated a ton. I had food sensitivity testing done, and I eliminated everything that I tested to, and I haven't noticed a big difference. And so then I've reintroduced a couple of things, but I'm nervous to reintroduce too much because I don't feel like I'm going to know, because I don't feel like I've noticed a big enough difference. So I have like a million questions and I'm not going to take everybody's time up, but I'm just curious. If you have any thoughts or advice on that, like maybe how to make it less overwhelming, and I don't know how to do it in pieces versus like this huge, big, overwhelming thing.
40 is a lot.
Well, go ahead, Leah. Sorry.
Well,
Yeah, because that's a lot of foods. But when I think about reintroducing foods, I think about when you're introducing babies to foods.
Mhm.
So you do one per week,
Mhm.
one
Right.
specific one per week. And like, think of it in like the first day, you do like a tablespoon. The second day, you do like 2 tablespoons.
Right.
And
Like I'll
you
tell
just
you, I
kind of
had eggs
test
today. It was so
out.
funny because I had a little bit of eggs today, and I've never thought of eggs as being of having any effect. But after eating eggs like twice, I had them for breakfast and for lunch, and only like half an egg for breakfast, half an egg for lunch. It gave me a headache, and it makes me sad.
So that's interesting. That is super sad. That is really sad. I would be super devastated. I feel like,
and it's fascinating, but at the same time, I feel like I'm tired and inflamed. I don't feel like I've had a huge change from eliminating. So I'm also like, how am I going to even know if something is triggering? So I'm just curious.
That's kind of why you got to take the week and like do it. Like have eggs, like Amy said, like maybe 1 egg and then 2 eggs, and like really get it into your system that versus like eating at one time being like, I don't know, because like I said, I can eat gluten moderately and be fine, but if I'm like, eating gluten every day, then it starts to kind of build up and start.
Okay, so it's like the really high dosing it, like really just throw it in there for a week and like really live off of that for a week, and almost trigger that really intense reaction.
Yes.
Okay.
And keeping a journal.
Because it builds up.
Yep. And be really mindful of your body. Like, what's your body doing? Instead of like eating it and kind of forgetting, like trying to like touch base every couple hours. Like, am I feeling okay? Yeah.
I want to say that I get migraines when I eat eggs and bananas. So I can do eggs like once a week, but I can't do eggs more than that. And I can't have bananas at all. So I know that those are the 2 things that I'm sensitive to. I'm also sensitive to gluten, and I may have celiac. I've never been tested, which I probably should get tested for. And I'm allergic to corn. So those are the 2 big things right there. I hate that I can't have corn.
I just think it's so funny. Like when we talk about testing, like I went, both me, my daughter, we've all been blood tested for allergies, like through a doctor, and have never come up sensitive. However, or allergic, I should say. So I guess it's really more of an allergy testing that they're doing. And it's like, okay, you can tell me that, but I know how I'm reacting to something. I know how she's reacting to something. So I would love to know, and I can't see your name. It just says iPhone, but you said you were Virginia is your name? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. It doesn't say your name on here. And I was wondering what test you did because
so there's a difference, and Leah probably can speak more to it, but there's a difference between allergy testing and food sensitivity testing. So they look at different markers. And so I tried to get allergy tested, and I can't right now. My skin is so sensitive. I went to get allergy tested last week, and I like reacted to everything, including the saline. So they were like, we're gonna have to wait a little longer. But I did a food sensitivity test, and it looks at certain markers in your blood in terms of reactivity, and it gave like a rating. So it gave I think it was a 1 to 3 rating, whereas 1 is mildly sensitive, 3 is highly sensitive. It does not mean you're allergic to them. It just means that it's triggered some sort of inflammation in your body, and it's just kind of, it's something that's straight up. And I can't speak to them fully. I know a little bit, enough to be dangerous, but it just basically was a place for me to start, because I've been having all of these symptoms, and then I've been having these histamine reaction, like these full-on histamine responses, and my body was coming out in these rashes. And so I wanted to start I didn't know where to start with elimination. I knew gluten, dairy, gluten, dairy, alcohol, sugar, but I felt like it was more than that. So that was where I started. But it's different to allergy testing. It is different. So you
anybody
could not be allergic, but still be sensitive.
Mhm. Have
Has
you?
anybody done a stool test?
Yes.
Is that similar to what you did, or will that tell you what your sensitivities are, or?
No, well, so I did a stool test I got diagnosed with SIBO. And I've also done a stool, like I also got tested by H. pylori, but I don't have it. But I don't know about stool testing.
Were
for
you positive
sensitivity.
for SIBO?
Yeah, I'm positive for SIBO,
So
and I have Hashimoto's as well.
I didn't know you were tested positive for that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's frustrating, but
super fun.
I'm glad they figured it out. Yeah, I'm glad they figured it out. But
Yeah.
Well, and Hashi's has so many intolerances there too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like quite the journey you're going to be on.
servo,
If you
like
tested for any auto.
from what I understand, it's the movement of your bowels, right? Like the process of it moving through your bowels. Is that correct?
Yeah. So SIBO is the motility piece of it.
That's right.
And then it's the absorption back in, like the absorption. So I think because it doesn't move as quickly, the bacteria kind of starts getting reabsorbed back into the body, I think. But I could be misspeaking. But it's like
No, that
basically
sounds
the bad
right.
stuff just starts to spread out because it's not moving through fast enough. Yeah. And it's like, for me, I think it's from a childhood full of antibiotics. I had a lot of antibiotics as a kid.
Oh.
And I think that's probably what caused it.
Did they start you on prebiotics and probiotics?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's good. Sorry. Totally. I feel like I'm going to message you privately because it's so interesting to
that's
me.
totally fine. This is why I was so excited for this call with Leah.
Yeah.
I'm so like, I'm like just like figuring it all out.
I don't know anybody who has it. And so I was doing a case study on it, and now I can pick your brain.
Yeah, happy to talk, Amy.
Sweet.
That is
So
interesting.
Coach Amy had.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Raquel. Nope, go ahead.
In one of our Marco Polos, Coach Amy had said, keep your butt happy. And
This is true.
But it's so true. And so, paying attention and being more mindful of foods. I've learned I love mushrooms. Love them. I love mushrooms. But I have a sensitivity. They upset my stomach, and I've eaten them my whole life, and I've never put the two together until recently because it didn't make my butt happy. And so I had to stop. I've stopped eating.
It's super sad, but also all I can picture is a happy butt.
Yes, it was just so funny when you said it, but it makes you think, okay, right? Like
It's true. That tells you a lot about your health and what's going on. And literally the easiest way to solve some of these things is through food. And so I feel like it kind of in this culture that we live in society, everybody wants to like go to the doctor, like I said earlier. And so an elimination diet, does anybody that's currently not on an elimination diet or hasn't done one, anyone ever thought, I think I may be, but are kind of too fearful to go on an elimination diet?
100%. 100%. It makes me anxious that it's going to trigger weird food issues. And so, but there have definitely been things. So,
well, like Nicole said that cheese makes an instant inflammation in her, and I feel like that's almost a thing too, that certain dairy products and how it's processed, will trigger over other things. Like I can't have custard. I feel an instant bloat, but I can have real ice cream. And I'm like,
that's interesting.
What is the difference? But I thought the difference in custard and ice cream is
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Benjamin, when he was little, when we moved back from France, had no issues in France because they process their dairy differently. But we moved back and he had instant, very unhappy butt. And yogurt was the worst because I think Rose just said that some dairies affects her differently. Sorry, the baby is singing. That's what that is.
Yeah, like yogurt, like everyone's like, oh, yogurt, it's so like healthy and wonderful, which I mean, sure it is, but that was like, I would eat it every day and every day have an IBS attack and not even correlate it because thinking, oh, it's probiotic and it's so great. And now, like, I don't obviously have dairy yogurt, so life is much better.
Yeah. And it's not always like unhealthy foods that irritate us, like it's not the potato chips always necessarily like, oh, I'm eating too much crap. That's why I feel this way. Sometimes it has nothing to do with, most of the time it has nothing to do with that. It's just, it could be whole, great, awesome foods. And I think that when we're eating whole, great, awesome foods, we're not thinking that there's any way in the world that they could be like making us feel crappy.
Do you have the stuff pulled up? Because I forget the actual quote, but one alcoholic drink cuts off a certain amount of microbiomes in the stomach, which is like all the healthy bacteria. And it's one alcoholic drink, and it's mostly in women. It doesn't affect men as much. And I thought that was super interesting because how many people just have a drink every few days,
Yeah. How many people just have one drink? Period.
Yeah, exactly. And it shows up as gassy and bloating and like all sorts of things that we wouldn't even relate to alcohol consumption necessarily.
I actually did. I don't know if any one of you have ever done that. I got my finger pricked, with a company and sent it away. That's what I did. And it said, stay away, never eat egg whites or yolks because the two are different. Sometimes you can eat the yolk and not the white. I think the white is usually the more irritating one. And then it also said gluten in moderation and Candida albicans never, which is basically like sugar. And it makes sense. I did read this. I have this book right here, and it does walk you through multiple types of food, elimination diets. And it says in there that we usually crave the foods that we're allergic to. And it's kind of like this whole, drug kind of how we crave drugs and we like do this thing. It does something in our body. Like our body craves the food that we are allergic to because it like needs this constant response or something like that. And so it was very interesting to me because I have a big sweet tooth and I used to binge out on sugar like on a regular basis. And so learning that, even though it was just one of those send in ones, now I notice like the response in my body, the inflammation. I wake up with like puffy, swollen eyes, like all the things. And so it's very interesting. So it's just something to think about, like I said, my husband's very, very allergic to cheese and dairy. It's his favorite food. Like why? So it's just kind of an interesting kind of correlation of that thought process. I have to find that in here and post it on Facebook.
I got to run, guys. Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Good to see all your faces. Bye.
Bye, Amy.
Anything else before we wrap it up? Any questions?
So like we were talking in the Ohana group about like probiotics and the like kombucha and all of those things. Are those to help with the bloating, or is that how does that help our gut?
That helps our gut heal, basically. So the inflammation happens in our gut, right? And especially if we're continually eating the food, even if kind of like a wound, right? We cut ourselves, like I was talking about earlier, we cut ourselves and all the things race to that inflammation to like take care of it. And then it heals and goes away. But if we're constantly putting wound on top of wound on top of wound on top of wound because we're eating the same food that's irritating us over and over and over again, the body can't deal with that. It's like, I'm trying, but I'm overwhelmed kind of thing, right? So that's how we kind of get that systemic inflammation. And so probiotics can come in and help like get the gut flora and everything more imbalanced. But I really feel like it's only going to do so much if you keep putting the food that you're sensitive to or whatever it is, if you keep putting it in, I feel like it's only going to do so much. Yeah, it might help your gut, but is it going to help your joint pain? Is it going to help your headaches? Is it going to help your, you know what I'm saying? So it is good. And when I went on my elimination diet, Coach Rebecca, she has Hashi's also, and she's done quite a few elimination diets. She says to eat one fermented thing a day because it's good for gut health. And so I think about that. I buy the big jug of kombucha and I just pour 1 cup every day.
So I'm going to jump in though and play devil's advocate and say that the fermented foods are high in yeast. And so if you have a sensitivity to yeast, which I do, then you have to avoid the fermented foods. And so then you can use a probiotic supplement instead. So so I think it's like with anything, you know, Leah, like it's like with anything, there's no one size fits all, right? And it's figuring out how your body reacts to it and, you know, just watching for those signals.
Yes, it's totally true. That is true. What works for one does not work for the other. And it's kind of like anything, I guess you got to feel it out. It's like mushrooms.
Yeah. I had no idea. I've eaten them my whole life. I love them.
And one more thing I'm going to say about probiotics, just because I always get on my soapbox about probiotics, is a large majority of our body's immune system is in our gut, and so probiotics are also really good for immune support. So if you're taking, like, if you get sick a lot or like over the winter months, it's really good to make sure you're taking a probiotic supplement so that you can support your gut health. And I'm going to stop.
No, gut health is really super. It rules the world of the body. It does.
So I had purchased some just little powder probiotic things that I can pour into water, mix it up. So I had one and my daughter had one, and it really bloated her. And I know that that's one of the, it said on the thing that you might bloat, give it a few days, don't give up. But I mean, she had this little pot belly, and I'm like, oh God, does that hurt? I just don't know.
I think you have to find the right one.
Yeah,
maybe. I had to try a couple different ones until it really, same thing with my daughter. We had to try a couple different ones, and then finally, we found one that works. And of course, the one that works for me is $27, which what the hell is that?
But you have to find the right one, and then sometimes you have to build up to it too. So sometimes you have to work up to the dose. So you don't want to maybe do the full dose straight away. So you want to kind of gradually get tolerant. But yeah, you definitely, it's taken me a bit to try to find one that I like that works for me too.
I usually notice it's working when I stop taking it, that I'm like, oh shit, that did work. But
yeah, same.
Also for I call it getting your vaginal pH. You know what I mean? That is another biofeedback. Leggings, right? Leggings do this to me, and I have to take probiotics, and it works in a heartbeat. But that's also a biofeedback marker of to look at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, ladies. Thank you for coming. Virginia, next time you got to bring more you sound like you're deep into this.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing knowledge.
I got diagnosed I don't know, 15 years ago. My doctor was like, oh, your thyroid's a little off. Let's start you on thyroid medication. And it's taken me 10 years to get a Hashi diagnosis.
That's crazy.
And I would go see my doctor. I remember going to see my doctor, and I was like, I'm really tired all the time. And she was like, well, you have an 18-month-old. That's normal. And it's just, I think it's really frustrating as women. We just have to constantly advocate for ourselves and have people take us seriously when we're like, I'm not feeling well, something's not right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this stuff, Leah, like the gut health, and just, I think it's still fairly new, and I don't think a lot of like primary care practitioners are really looking at it. And so I think this was a great topic. I mean, it is definitely a journey, but yeah, no, I think it's great to keep educating.
I agree. I don't think many insurance covers naturopaths either, which
No,
I,
they don't.
yeah, which I think is like the go-to. I think
Yep.
they actually want to get us well and not keep
Yep.
us sick.
Yep. And
So,
even functional medicine practitioners, like that's how I got diagnosed, was through a functional medicine practitioner, but my insurance didn't cover any of it. So yeah,
that makes it more difficult.
it does for sure.
So
I've
if
been
anybody needs, oh, go ahead.
I've been fighting with my doctor too about being tired all the time. And finally they checked because they wouldn't check my T3 levels for my thyroid. And finally I had another doctor who checked him, who gave me medication that helped, but I still think my thyroid's all enlarged. And so I'm still trying to fight with them to figure out what's going on. But
yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. Like my doctor wouldn't, I went to my doctor. I wanted to get my TPO antibodies tested to see for Hashis, and she wouldn't do it. She just flat out refused to do it. And so then I found a functional medicine doctor who would do it, because I was like, there's got to be a reason my thyroid is failing. And I do think that actually, Nicole, I went to an endocrinologist, and she told me that diet would not help my thyroid. Like she was like, don't even worry about your diet. Like that's got nothing to do with it. You just need to take medication for the rest of your life. And I was like, okay, I'll see you later. Bye.
so that
So
might be my next step then.
Doctor.
That might be my next step then, is to find a functional doctor. And unfortunately, yeah, insurance won't cover it. So we'll have to figure out how to do that. But I've got to figure out why I'm tired all the time. I'm tired and I'm cold.
Yeah.
All the time, constantly. Yeah. And it doesn't matter how much sleep I get.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely understand that.
Do you feel better, Nicole? Being on meds forever? See, that's the other scary thing. That scares me.
I'd rather be on meds forever and feel better than not be on meds at all and feel like crap every day.
Yeah.
Sense.
Yeah.
Too.
But I think it's a balance. Like I'm on like meds, but I think also just the diet piece definitely plays a huge part.
Ladies, I love this conversation. It was really cool.
This is great. Thank you, Leah. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If anybody has anything else, about elimination diets or food sensitivities or anything, like ask your coach. If they don't know, if we don't know, we will find out. It's just, like asking for help is a big deal sometimes, especially in something like this. So thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Welcome.
Why is it not letting me leave?